What's going on, people? This is the JT Sports Show, episode 25. Carl Anthony Towns last night against the Washington Wizards suffered what they are calling a calf sprain that is putting him out 4 to 6 weeks. This is going to be a Timberwolves-centric podcast today because there's a lot to talk about with the state of the Howl. To join us, Jackson Borst is here. His name is Connolly Destroyed a Franchise. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Anthony Edwards and how through your eyes, you see nothing negative. I see a lot of negative, yet a lot of positives. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about what the team is going to be like without Cat and how it could be some good things, but it also could be awful. We are not sure. But Borsty, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Talk. Thank you. Isn't it something for me to not be negative about something?
Am I going to see your face or am I going to look at a ceiling all day?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now.
All right, cool. All right, let's start with the Cat thing and how this team could get better or worse and what it's going to look like. So obviously without Cat, it's going to be a one big lineup. The issue has been with the two big lineup, the defense having to scramble, teams just passing the ball 8 times and getting an open shot every single time. The awful perimeter defense that Ant and D'Lo bring that makes it tough on Rudy. And on the offense, I mean, quite honestly, the offense hasn't been that bad. They're 9th in the league in points per game. I don't know what their offensive rating is. It could be around the same. But either way, the spacing should be a little bit better. And it should open up some lanes for Ant. And you should expect more D'Angelo Russell, Rudy Gobert pick and rolls. Your thoughts?
Well, that's a lot to unpack. I think it's going to be good for this team.
Start with the D'Lo Rudy and how it opens the floor up for Ant.
Well, does it open the floor up for sure?
It should, yeah.
Well, I like that. That means more drives, more dunks, more free throws.
Correct. Yeah. And your thoughts on D'Angelo Russell being an even bigger part of this offense?
Now that, I don't know. I mean, what was he? He was 6 for 15 last night and 1 for 7. And I texted you, he wasn't that bad.
Yeah, well,
those are his standards.
Last night's.
Maybe this will rejuvenate him. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I mean, let me say this, and you could disagree if you want, but he's been our second best player in the last 2.5 weeks. Since the Cleveland game, he's been very good player. Last year, he had game, like for majority of the year, he just wasn't shooting the ball well, but he was impacting the game in a good way. This year, it was both bad. Impacting horrible, shooting horrible, everything horrible. Until the last 2 weeks, he started to shoot the ball a little better.
Yeah.
And even last night, like I didn't even realize, I thought he was shooting the ball well last night. That tells me like what his game was like last night. And then you texted me his shooting numbers and they were horrible. So I guess that's a good thing. But like last night, I didn't see him being the massive issue where a lot of nights lately his defense has been much improved just based off of effort. And for him, that's all you can ask for because God did not give him talents athletically, and so he has to make up for it with his effort and energy. And lately, he's been doing that. Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, God gave him a lot of athletic ability, and a lot of the time, he just doesn't want to use it. Whether that's coming out flat, whether that's based off of him eating Popeyes and Cheetos the night before, I'm not sure what it is, but you just don't know what you're going to get from him on a given night. And let's dive into Anthony Edwards. I know that you see only the roses and the flowers with Anthony Edwards. There are some negatives, one being perimeter defense, like I mentioned. Every single time he gets screened, he's out of the play. If he's given a one-on-one defensively, sign me up. He's one of the best in the league. It's pretty crazy. Like, he can stay in front of anybody. But off-ball defense, being screened,
Well, is that fixable?
I mean, I don't know. It's been a problem his entire career, and he hasn't improved one bit. Like, it's the off ball is more, you can improve that more. That's just based off of paying attention. Being screened, he just doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how to fight over his screen and still stay in front of a person. Like I said, the on ball, when he's one-on-one, he's very good defensively.
Well, that's more important in the long run, in my opinion, that he knows how to do that. It's better that we have that and not the I mean, it'd be great if he had both, but I'd rather have him be really good as a on-ball defender than perimeter.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think D'Lo's actually no, he's not good at anything defensively. But I was gonna say he's better. I was gonna say he's a decent guy when he's getting screened, but that's not true. My point was he's better. He's a better like off ball defender. He's actually pretty good being off ball as a defender. He did it all of last year, and that's what made the defense work. And they sort of hid him. Is that a word? Hit him on like poor offensive players on other teams. And so that's why the defense was okay last year. But this year with Rudy and they're playing the drop coverage, it's D'Lo's just getting stuck out on an island out on the perimeter, and it's just disgusting to watch. Offensively with Ant, I know that you really think that everything's good. And I don't have much critics right now with Ant, besides the fact that a lot of the times he's standing in the corner with his hands on his hips.
No, he's not doing that as much.
No, he's not as much, but he's still doing it. And then you beg the question, is that you always say, oh, is that the front office's fault? Is that Chris Finch's fault? No, Ant's fault. Ant is the one. Chris Finch is not telling him to go stand in the corner and do nothing. I can guarantee you that. And neither is Tim Connolly.
No, that would be D'Lo who runs the play when he's
that's because Ant's not a point guard, and Ant doesn't want to be a point guard. He's said that before. And Ant says he gets tired when he brings the ball up every damn play, which is embarrassing, quite honestly. But that's neither here nor there. Ant standing in the corner is on him. If he wants the ball, he can go grab it at any point.
Well,
I'm
not
doing
that as much. Like I said, he's not in the corner with the hands and the hips as much. Maybe once every few games.
Oh, no. It happens a couple of times a game.
Yeah. Well, I think he's been playing really well offensively the last 2
Yes.
games.
Positively, I agree. He's looked much better ever since he had that first dunk. He's found his legs. He looks more athletic. He just looks like he has more energy on a more consistent basis.
One thing, hold on, sorry to interrupt. The one thing I wish that he would get a little more consistent is the 3-point shooting. That's the one thing where I'm getting a little annoyed at how he still hits a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, but there have been a little too many of 1 for 6, 2 for 7, 2 for 6, 3 for 8, that type of thing.
Well, let me tell you this. We were talking before we started here about whether Ant's a smart player, winning player. That a lot of that is his decision making on shot selection. That he hurts the team in a lot of ways when he takes unbelievably stupid shots, like step back threes every single time, which it's entertaining at times because it's kind of fun to watch him just go to work. But like, he'll block a shot on one end, and it happened against the Heat, and you were at the game. Everybody knew it was going to happen. Yeah. And it's not a smart shot. Like, yeah, it went in. It's not necessarily smart to take a 30-foot step back three when you have all the momentum. Like, we're lucky it went in. But that's just not a smart play. Like, winning players would probably drive to the basket and get fouled. Like,
that's the thing I was saying. Another criticism I guess I'd have is I wish he would drive more and get fouled. Like, last night, I really liked what I saw, how he was driving, getting dunked, or like trying to dunk on people. That's when he's at his best. And his free throw numbers have definitely increased. Like, he's been shooting 10, 11, 9, 8 free throws a game, which is much better than what it was. Like, the beginning of the season, and up until that Heat game, there were 1 free throw, 2 free throws, 4 attempts. It's terrible. Yeah. Like, he needs to be getting to the line. I'm going to probably 10 times a night. That's what I'll say. And, but yeah, I do think he's playing better. And this is where we're going to see what he's made of. Actually, we know what he's made of, but I think this is going to be really interesting
Do
to
we?
see how the team, how if I was the general manager, this is how I would do it. Have him be the centerpiece and have him carry a team. So we'll see.
Do we know what he's made of?
Yeah.
Are you confident in that? Because the way we want him to be and the way he talks like he's going to be
Inconsistent.
he sure doesn't come out every night like he wants to be that.
Yeah, it's inconsistency.
Yeah, and it's been that his whole career. And that's why at this point, it's year 3. He's not a rookie anymore.
Okay.
It's getting
Why
frustrating.
can't you talk about this with Towns? I mean, this is year 8.
Because we talk about this every time. You always ask why I'm so hard on Ant and not as hard on other, but because I know he can be so good, and he just doesn't go for it. Like
No,
he
yeah,
could
I
do
agree.
it every night.
He needs to be more consistent.
That's
sure.
why he makes me more mad than any other player on this team, because I know he can do it, and he just doesn't do it.
Like that Warriors game. Like, how do you not come out flying? Like, how are you not so excited for that? Like.
That was the most
flying
mad.
Cylinders. It's just it's ridiculous.
That was the most mad I've been at him. And like I was sitting in my seat at Target Center and I was just livid because that first half, Andrew Wiggins was taking it to him on both ends of the floor. Like on one of the floor. But and I didn't give a shit at that point. Like I don't care. It's a 30-point game. Go ahead and score as much as you want. You always talk about garbage time buckets and freaking stat padding. That's the definition of it. Sure, you cut it to a 10-point game, which was cool. And it gave me false hope.
Oh, my God. That was the biggest false hope in decades.
Then the Warriors just go and make 5 threes in a row. And it's just like, yeah, whatever. I turned it off. But, where was I? Stat padding and garbage time. And that was predictable. I mean, it's like the Warriors sort of stepped back and just let the Wolves score a bunch of points, and Ant came out in the second half doing it. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I do agree where it can be extremely frustrating when he comes out like the Warriors game. How he doesn't come out flying like
and
aggressive. You need to do it every night, every single night,
and that's why
the NBA season is no doubt a grind. It for sure is, but. Just saying.
You don't have to. Okay, I understand if you come out once in every 8 games and you come out a little lethargic, maybe, and that's being like really fair in my opinion. Once in every 8 games, I'm giving you like 10 games off a year where you can come out a little flat. But every other game, you should not. Like Jason Tatum doesn't come out flat. He's
especially against the Warriors.
Yeah,
and
I know
the position that this team is in. You know, like this is not the time. Like, it's not the time to come out. You know,
well, and with this franchise, it's always been what team you're playing is how the Wolves are going to come out and play. And like usually the energy is at an all-time high when they play the best teams, and when it's at an all-time low when they play the worst teams. And with Ant, it's just you don't know what you're going to get. It's sticking your hand in a Starburst bag and hoping you get some color, and it's usually not. So that's a great analogy. But I
don't know.
So that's why I bring up the question: is he a winning player, and is he what we think he's going to be? Because he's said it his whole career, and nothing's changed.
His whole career started 2 years ago. Not even 2 years ago.
Like John Morant, year 3 last year, what did he do? He came out every single night and freaking showed up.
He's only been in the league 2 years. It's 3 seasons.
John Morant had only been in the league 2 years until last year.
No, that's not true. He was in it
last year was year 3 for Ja.
No, but the COVID
he came
year,
in with Zion.
The COVID year, they started in December. Like
you don't
Christmas.
Count that as a year?
Well, I do, but he was drafted 2 years ago. I mean, yeah, this is year 3, but
this is his 3rd NBA season.
Yeah.
Last year was Ja's 3rd NBA season. And and people would go to the point where Ja has the ball in his hands all the time because he's a point guard. Well, tough. Like Ant's not a point guard. You can still score. There's shooting guards in this league that show up and put up freaking fat numbers every single night. Like that's not really an excuse to me. Like D'Lo having the ball all the time, that's not really an excuse to me. Besides the fact that if Ant wants the ball, he can go grab the ball. He's just not aggressive enough. So, there's more to be seen with Anthony Edwards and whether he is what we think he is. Chris Finch. We asked the question whether he is the player we think, the coach that we think he is, which I am still of the belief that Chris Finch is still a good coach. He was a big part in making this trade. The way he talked after the trade and how all Tim Connolly talked after the trade and how it was everybody was on board with it. How you don't pass up an opportunity to get a player like Rudy Gobert. Well, they might not have thought about the fit quite enough.
Or anything.
Yeah, there's ultimately there are flaws, and Chris Finch is trying a lot of things. You were listening to the Dane Moore episode before this. I was listening to it. They talked about how defensive scheme wise, I think at this point they've tried so many different things. The players have come out in press conferences talking about how it's like so hard to change schemes like 4 different times in a game. At this point, I think you just roll with one thing and just hammer it and do what they did last year. Last year, they literally played one scheme all year. It was crazy. It was goofy, and no other team played it. But you could just play the same scheme, try and get really good at it, and don't freaking go from high wall to a drop coverage to a switching to a freaking scrambling to everything.
Why don't we just run the same coverage that Utah ran with Rudy?
Well, because when you have Cat,
I know the answer to my own question, but now that he's gone,
and that's probably what they'll do. They'll probably try and run a drop coverage, and the problem with that is that puts a lot of weight on your perimeter defenders because Rudy, like last year when Cat played the high wall, it didn't put as much weight because Cat was also out there helping. Whereas with Rudy playing down by the rim, there's no help for D'Lo on a one-on-one. There's no help for Ant. We'll get to Jaden McDaniels because I want to talk about him. I think he's been the most impressive player on the team this year. He might not be the best player. He isn't the best player, but in terms of taking a step and improving and being one of the best defenders in the league, he's there. Like, he's unbelievable. This team has been gone without him for 2 games, and they've let up like freaking 143 points and 137 points. That's all that needs to be said about Jaden McDaniels. Tim Connolly, I don't know how much we want to talk about him, but your name is Tim Connolly destroyed a franchise. So obviously you hate Tim Connolly, and he either has to make a move to make up for this, or this team has to improve dramatically at some point.
Well,
which could happen.
He can wait till after the season to do that. But I don't even trust this guy. I don't trust him to do anything.
Yeah. So then do you blame A-Rod and Laurie?
Yes.
So it starts with A-Rod and Laurie. How much do you blame Glenn Taylor?
I don't know. I don't know how much say he had, but of course I blame him. I blame the ownership group for sure. For sure.
Tim Connolly was so good in Denver, though.
No, he wasn't.
He was. He built that franchise and made them a stalwart.
Overrated tenure.
How?
100%.
He came in and made them a perennial NBA playoff team. He got Jokic. He got Murray. He got Michael Porter Jr. He got all those guys based off the draft.
It's just not that impressive what he did. That's why it was so confusing when we hired him.
Well, I disagree. Like, what better GM are you going to get than a guy that built a franchise like Denver?
I could name like 10 off the top of my head right now.
That is realistic. You're not going to get Bob Myers. You're not going to get Pat Riley. That's realistic.
Okay. Well, then why did we need to get this guy though? Like, what was the point? Like,
no, you can't say that now though, because at the time, I don't remember what you said, but I'm guessing you really liked Tim Connolly.
I didn't.
I think you did.
I don't think I disliked it, but I don't think I liked it.
I think you liked it. We'll have to go back and check the tapes here.
No, because I didn't want Gupta running things because I thought he was too loyal to D'Lo. And I thought they were going to bring in a new guy with new eyes who would get rid of him.
It all goes back to D'Lo, doesn't it? It all goes back to D'Lo, doesn't it? It's
I guess
just
so.
D'Angelo. It's all around about
Which, by
D'Angelo.
the way, I'm rooting for him in this next 6-week stretch because we're gonna need him to hit some freaking shots.
Oh, but okay. So now you've totally switched tunes because previously you wanted him to do bad so that they would trade him. Now you want him to
I
do
wanted him
good.
to do bad so that the team would realize that he is not the answer.
Yeah, so
and
they
that-
trade him.
Yes.
Yeah. And now, even though now you want him to do good, and then
yeah,
they won't
because I want
trade
to
him.
make the playoffs. That's why.
If this team goes on a huge run here, Cat's the one out.
Yeah, and I want
D'Lo's the one
too.
staying. Are you good with D'Lo staying?
I am good with whatever will enhance this team to make it the best.
Like, I think all year, D'Lo's issue hasn't been trying, like, him and Rudy. Like, I think that the D'Lo-Rudy pairing has been on Rudy. Like,
Yeah.
D'Lo throws him great passes, and the ball freaking goes through his hands like Butterfingers.
Yeah, maybe I've been a little harsh on D'Lo, I will admit. But I'm rooting for him now, and maybe him and Edwards can catch fire here with this new thing. And honestly, I said it to you many times and before the show. I know you hate talking about trades, but I do think that the Wolves will be trading Cat this offseason.
That it's a possibility. But yeah, thinking of, I don't want to talk about it.
I'm just saying.
But the next few weeks without Cat, let's talk about this a little bit.
Well, hold on. Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
If you do trade Cat, do you also trade D'Lo? Like, or do you keep him? I know he's a free agent.
There's no chance in my mind they trade both those guys. That would be the biggest like offseason in Wolves history. Trading both of them.
Damn. Then that means that they'll probably keep Cat then.
Not necessarily. If this team does great without Cat here, which it's going to be a big sample size. This is a month and a half without him. If this team goes on a run and it looks flawless, or is that the right word? If it looks,
well,
if
it's
it
not
looks,
gonna. I don't think it's gonna look flawless. Like this.
No,
team...
I'm not saying it will, but it could look very good. It could look a lot better because now you just totally took out like a huge issue with this team was there's 3 guys that need the ball in their hands. And it's like, who's going to take the shot? And it's hero ball. Now you take one of those massive, dramatic players out of the lineup. Yet you still, like, you took out a big man, yet you still have an all-NBA big man. It's not like you're losing a point guard and then you have to have J-Mac run things. Like, Rudy's still here, and he's very, very good center when he's in the right situation. And this might be the best situation for Rudy. And it might open the floor up for Ant, and D'Lo and Rudy. This might help them even more in the pick and roll because the ball.
It's almost like this is what it should have been before the season. It's just, it's just so puzzling that they would make a move
think about like this team had so much damn talent that you just have to cut an all NBA player to be better.
Well, no, that's
basically what we're saying here because we lost the all NBA player and now we might be better.
Well, yeah, but Rudy is a very interesting case of an all NBA player. Let's be honest. That is not the typical.
No, he is. He's been in an awkward situation. He hasn't looked like an all NBA player. He hasn't looked like that defensively. Offensively, they've made him look bad. They have made him look bad.
Terrible.
And he's been used completely differently than in Utah. And what Dane and Britt were talking about on the podcast is without Cat, more than likely, this team's going to look more like Utah. D'Lo's the Mike Conley, Ant's the Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy's Rudy. So, like, that's probably what it's going to look like. Are you still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you agree?
I do agree. And yeah, I'm just thinking right now. I do think that it could potentially be a situation where the team goes, how many games is it without Cat? For sure 13, right?
At least.
So say we go, I don't even want to do this, but like go.
No, it'll be at least 16, 18 games I think.
All right, so what if we go like 4 games above 500?
I wouldn't be impressed.
You wouldn't.
Not really.
Well,
Well, okay, wait. 16 games. What's 4 games above 500? 12, 8 and 13. No,
8 and
14.
6. No. That's 14 games.
Why is this so hard? Hold
Yeah,
on.
I don't know.
16
16
games. 4 and no.
Is that 12 and
11 and 6? No.
12 and 8?
Yeah. No.
Oh.
11.
All right,
and 10.
I'm gonna just stop because I'm terrible.
we're making fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
It would be about 11 and 6, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That wouldn't be bad. No. I take back my statement, but it depends on how it looks, quite honestly.
But I'm just saying, if you're the front office, you just can't go forward with this situation. You can't do it, especially when you have Anthony Edwards on this team. You can't do it.
Yeah.
It is not smart. You cannot be so like hell bent on this thing working to try to justify your trade to keep it together, because that's going to be catastrophic if you do that.
Yeah. What's been really unfortunate is the contrast from the fans' point of view from last year to this year.
Yeah,
last
I agree.
year's team
I
was
totally
so
agree.
much fun to watch. They
I
played
agree.
fast.
Agreed.
This year's team, it's just been a disaster.
I know.
It's hard to watch. It's not good basketball. It's clunky. It's slow. And there's a reason Boo Birds come out every game. So
I agree. Like, it is
Yeah.
sad. Like, remember how fun last year's team was? It was so likable.
And I'll never go back on what I've said this whole year from last year's team. Like, that team wasn't going to be much better this year. Like, that team squeezed a lot of juice out of the lemon.
They're a lot older.
They had a lot of flaws.
They did.
Their rebounding was trash.
But they're older, 1 year older. Everybody, they have playoff experience. And do you want to say what I told you over text last night about last year's team?
What?
I think they would be the 1 seed right now.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe. But one thing I will say is the Patrick Beverly situation. That sort of ran that team last year. Is the heart and the whole Pat Bev aura.
Yeah.
This year it would have been less. The whole Pat Bev thing would have started to the whole Pat Bev ticker would have started to go down a little bit, I think. Because his whole thing is it gets tiresome, and I think players even get tired of it in a way.
Well, maybe, but that guy
Also,
works
he's
so
not
hard
good
on
at
the floor.
basketball anymore.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe, but what about Vanderbilt?
Yeah, we miss him.
The energy.
We miss him.
Yeah.
Like, Minot could be the next Vando. Have you seen any of his highlights with Iowa? He's literally a clone.
Haven't seen a thing.
Well, I recommend you watch some of his highlights. He's a clone of him. But yeah. Trying to think if anything else Wolves related. Tomorrow night they play the Grizzlies, and
Damn.
I
don't know
wouldn't be
what's gonna
surprised.
happen.
Well, they don't have Desmond Bain.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if we beat them. I think it's sad to say, one of your best player gets hurt, and somehow the team might come out firing on all cylinders because they're like rejuvenated in a way. And that might not be the right way to say it, but you know what I mean.
Well, there have been so many times this year where I've texted you and I've thought in my head, like, what's the problem? What's the team's problem? Like, what is it? And is it Cat? Is it D'Lo? Is it Finch, the defense? And then I just go back to, it's just the move that they made. It's just the trade. Like you told me, like, it's not on one person. It's on a ton of things. And when all those things start to add up, it's the defense, it's the clogging of the lanes, it's the lack of 3-point shooting, moving Beasley. At the end of the day, it's on the front office.
Yeah. Tim Connolly, Kahnolly.
Yeah, I've turned you to the dark side in hating him. So.
Oh yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about. We've talked about a lot of positives, how this whole Cat thing could go. this team's. Wait, did we talk about the shooting? I can't remember. This
No, we
team's going to
didn't.
lack shooting. We might have talked about that before we started this.
Yeah.
The team's going to lack shooting, and I don't know where you're going to get it from. We might just need to start peppering the paint, which McDaniels is fantastic at. Rudy can do when he's only a foot from the basket. D'Lo has attacked the rim more this year than he did last year, and Ant can do it. So I don't have many issues with this team. Like, I think this team can be really good inside the 2-point line. When they played the Pacers, it was like a record or something. They like scored the most points in the paint, which I think this team can do. But 3-point shooting wise, yikes. I don't know who's going to be. This team is just going to be very inconsistent. So I don't know if you shoot less threes or what it is, but I want to see a lot of D'Lo, Rudy pick and roll, which will open space up for Cat or for Ant. It doesn't sound like it will, but it will. And I want Ant to be aggressive. Those are the two asks because I think it could be potent.
Yeah, I'm like cautiously optimistic. Like I'm on one hand, I'm very excited, but I'm kind of nervous that it might not go great. But I don't know.
Well, yeah, it could
I just kind of think it's all on Edwards and Rudy too. I mean, Rudy needs to go back to the way he was, and Edwards needs to be an unbelievable player.
Rudy, besides the fact that he might be this whole year, he might have been battling an injury, which because he looks slower, it's not on him for why he's looked bad. Like, I think it's a little bit on him because he always talks about how he wants the ball more, which he just shouldn't. Like, he can't. He sucks outside of a foot. But like a lot of it is Finch talking about how they want to quote unquote unlock the or unlock his offense, and defensively, he doesn't get any help. And the fit with Cat is gross.
You said last night that Edwards, like, being less engaged, or like if he was struggling every night, you would say that's the front office's fault. And obviously he's not, so that's on him.
Correct.
And that's a good point. With Rudy, is it the opposite, where the way he's struggling, that's the front office's fault versus
it's more it's the fit more than him.
Okay. Yeah. I just
with Ant, I don't really believe the whole clogging the lane thing, quite honestly. Like, because he can do it. He's shown us countless times this year where he can drive and finish and dunk, especially the last few weeks. So I think Ant has gotten more comfortable with it.
He's looked much better since that Grizzlies game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this was a good conversation. We'll be back. It feels like a Tuesday thing. It feels like we do these on a lot of Tuesdays. So I think Dane Moore might be coming on next week. Borsty, you can join if you would like. And so we can talk Wolves with Dane. Vikings play the Jets this weekend.
I might join. I mean, thank you for inviting me.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know if it was because you know him a little better than me, so he doesn't know me.
Yeah, but I think I was thinking about it. We could talk. It could be more of a conversation rather than question answer.
I want to talk to him about this front office thing.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of questions that a lot of times I don't have the answers to.
Well, that's
you know what your favorite. You know what your favorite thing to do is text me during games. Stupid questions that I just have no answer to. Yeah. Even the question last night, like how long, like, or when, no, your question was, is this team making, like, do you think this team can make, I don't know if this team can make the playoffs. Like, there's so much unknowns with this team.
Yeah. Well, how about that? Do you think this team is going to make the playoffs?
No. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, anything could happen without Cat.
This team
could either come out and look awful, or it could come out and look unbelievable. We have no idea.
Damn.
One more quick thing. I mentioned the comparison to how this could be more like Utah. The unfortunate thing is Utah had 1 million shooters. This team has none. I'll leave it with that. All right.
Wait, one more thing. Have you heard any rumors about the whole ownership situation?
I'm not worried about that
Well,
at all.
what if that falls through?
It's not going to.
Okay.
It's not. No. Lori has oodles and oodles of money. If A-Rod can't pay, Lori will.
Well, what if Lori can't?
He can.
Okay.
He has oodles of money.
He's
All
all
the money, anyways, pretty much.
He's
Hope so.
Taking a lot of it.
Yeah.
But
All
do
right.
I hope so though? He did Brandis Connolly.
Connolly was a good hire until it wasn't. Okay.
Yeah, it was a good hire for about 2 weeks until he decided to Titanic the franchise. Not really though. The franchise is not ruined.
He can make up for it.
I know he can. The next
That's the
6
first
weeks are
positive
big.
thing you've said about Connolly in 3 weeks.
Actually, 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah. Well, all right.
No, because early on you were optimistic too.
Well, I was before the trade.
No, before the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Please like and subscribe to this show and podcast and follow us on our social media platforms.
Next
we'll be back.
next 6 weeks are big. I'm just gonna say that right now.
They are massive. For the future of this franchise. It could say a lot of things about
Yeah.
whether Cat's the issue or not. All right. Thanks, Borsty, and we'll probably be back next week with
Hopefully Dane Moore.
peace.
Thanks,
out.
Doc.